Florida Governor Ron DeSantis supports Don't Say Gay. Watch this.
We've seen instances of students being told by different folks in school, oh, don't worry, don't pick your gender yet, do all this other stuff. They won't tell the parents about these discussions that are happening. That is entirely inappropriate. And schools need to be teaching kids to read, to write. They need to teach them science, history. We need more civics, understanding the U.S. Constitution and what makes our country unique. All this basic stuff to get into situations where you're not having the parent, you're hiding things from the parent, you're injecting these concepts about choosing your gender, that is just inappropriate for our schools. And so I don't support that going on. I don't think it's going on in large numbers, but I'll tell you, since this debate has started, people have reported to me that this has happened in areas that you would not expect it, to happen. And so we want to make sure that our schools are really focusing on the basics. We don't want them to be engines to be putting things like the CRT that we've talked about, things that are divisive and are not accurate, of course, when you start talking about some of the stuff that they're teaching with it.
My favorite governor, Ron DeSantis, appeared at a press event yesterday speaking out in support of the new Don't Say Gay bill that has passed the Florida House. He said it was entirely inappropriate for educators to discuss sexuality and gender identities with students. At the press event, he said, quote, "Schools need to be teaching kids to read, to write. They need to teach them science, history. We need more civics and understanding of the U.S. Constitution, what makes our country unique, and all those basic things," end quote. Love that he can use a pronoun like things. Apparently, he missed the lesson on the Constitution, the history of civil rights movement, and other things that make this country unique.
We have breaking news, by the way. Production has just informed me, Ty, while you were doing this story, that the president of Yale University is on the phone saying, please do not reveal that he is an undergraduate of Yale University.
With a history degree.
Yeah. Production is also informing me now that the president of Harvard University is on the phone to please not mention that he is a graduate of the Harvard Law School. Those two facts are impossible with the person that was just speaking. And the last thing, I think about this, it's so beyond unbelievable, is how is it possible that we would listen to this candidate trying to run for president in 2024 be worse than the last president we had? But it's beginning to appear that that's what's forming.
This is why I'm trying to leave America. I'm sorry, I'm going to say
it. You would leave SunServe.
I love SunServe, and I can figure out how to work from home. I mean, I work from home sometimes anyways. If I can work from another country,
we'll figure it out. All right, you heard the ED say that. All right. What do y'all think about the governor?
So here's the thing. The Republican Party has totally screwed up education in Florida since the Bush governorship, right? They have done nothing but undercut education and reduce its value for our state. We've gone from being basically dead last to basically next to dead last. So we're the penultimate state in poor education. Look that one up, Ronnie. The point here is we do need to help our students do better in high school with all of those subjects. But the problem is the Florida Board of Education has said if you graduate from a Florida school, you're automatically college ready. They're not. They're in my class, right? I can tell you right now they're not. And I have to, and not that, I mean, I love my job and I love my students, but I have to kind of bend over backwards and try and find ways of helping these very deserving students overcome years of bad education in order to get a college degree.
That's a fantastic observation. I've never heard that before.
No, there's so much ignorance that comes out of the Florida school system. While, yes, I'm a product of the South Florida school system, I did very well. A lot of the things that I learned about the queer community, about even the Black community, which is very sad to say as an African American, I learned from not in school. They taught me very whitewashed history. They did not teach me a lot other than like a little blurb on gay or Black, like once a month I get something, but I learned it in school. Like I said, I went to Broward College, I went to FIU, I went to FAU, and there's so much knowledge there. Why is it that in the schools, when the children are growing up, they aren't being taught that? They aren't even being taught basic life skills.
Tony, you were an advocate as the executive director of SAVE for years, so you understand the politics. Saborni's question, we can get a reasonable or too superior education in our colleges in Florida, but we can't seem to get it in our public schools. Why is that? From your seat in advocacy, what was going on?
Well, I think that Ty is absolutely right. Everything has become so incredibly politicized. And even our education agenda for years has been politicized. What I find really insulting about this story is that the governor is talking about an issue that doesn't exist, and he admits to it in his address.
Exactly.
He's like, I don't know that this is really happening a whole lot, but let's spend hours and hours writing a bill, proposing a bill, developing all of this media attention around the bill.
For what purpose?
Just for political reasons, just to be able to, again, fearmonger and get people to vote for him because people are going to somehow think that he's some kind of savior against everything that is bad. And unfortunately, LGBTQ people, LGBTQ issues, marginalized communities, the transgender community, black and brown folks are all the monsters that we are supposed to fear as white people. And I did say yes. I said that I was white myself.
And it's almost like a don't ask, don't tell. As long as we don't talk about it, it's fine. So don't say anything, that way everyone remains ignorant and you can't make wise decisions. Because the only thing you've been taught is this one side and not all sides. And once you are able to delve and go into higher education, you're learning it, but it's almost too late at some points for a lot of people that it's been set in their brain from early on. This is the way you think. And it's hard to undo that from a lot of people.
There's another element to all of this, right? Like, and we've learned this through the pandemic. People hear what they want to hear.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the biggest issues. Like, people will take from his address, they will say, oh my God, we have to fear this. This is absolutely happening in schools. They'll miss the part that he said, this really doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I got to follow up in terms of asking clarification. This sounds to what you've put out there. George Bush in 2000, that's what his campaign focused on, and LGBT was a big focus point of rejection of LGBT, and it was successful against Gore. He didn't win the majority, but he won where it counted, which ultimately was in the Supreme Court and Florida. The situation, we thought in 2004 he was less on the issue of LGBT. By 2008, even in the Republicans, it was basically gone. 12, it wasn't an issue. Marriage equality becomes the rule of law. Trump comes in 16, and it seems like a pendulum starts to swing backwards to where we are now in 2022, where we're back to being the target. Black, LGBT, trans students, we're back to being the boogeyman that we experienced in 2000, 22 years later.
To Tony's point, it's about the next election. And so if I can rally everyone against to hate a group, I can get more people to support me because you become evil. And I think one of the things that's happened is in this state, we've had so many nonprofits come about, like SunServe and others, that Pride Centers, things like that, that are now the education source, because if there's no other place to get this information, and you hear about like kids for like Pride lines, these kids that have been thrown out of their home, they've never been taught sexual education, to have pride in their body of who they are, and so they end up on the streets, you know. And then you go back to what I do is with that HIV education. If they're not taught about sexual education, you can't make good decisions. You find yourself HIV positive and your world turning because you didn't even know the word AIDS existed. You don't even know what HIV is. So how do you fear it if you don't know it exists?
Yeah, wow. Well, Saborni, you're gonna have to center yourself
Bring
and
us
move
back.
us on, right?
Bring us back.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBT